Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet again another episode of the Leblock Cast. It is Tuesday, August 1st, 2023. I am your co-host here, Nordic97, joined with, being hosted by my host, Leblock. How we doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good.
Good to hear. Good to hear.
Now, I think we should just get the elephant out of the room out of the way immediately. The big news: Vladimir Tarasenko signs a 1-year deal with the Ottawa Senators. Let's just get into it. How do you feel about this deal?
I like it a lot. I mean, it's a 1-year, $5 million contract. And you had DeBrincat leave, and that top six arguably was going to look like coming into that DeBrincat spot was going to be Kubalik, correct?
Yes.
So probably filling in that spot now is going to be Tarasenko. I don't hate it. I mean, Tarasenko, it's a 1-year deal, so if it doesn't work out well, then he's gone afterwards. So it's no harm, no foul. He scored 40 goals previously. How many did he have last year? I know he didn't have a lot.
He had 18, I'm pretty sure.
He had 18 on a struggling Blues team, but when he got to the Rangers, he seemed to pick things up a little bit, which goes to show that put him on a solid team, he can do pretty well. But regardless, I like that top six a lot now for Ottawa, adding Tarasenko to it, regardless of the controversy of, he hasn't scored 40 in like 3 years. It doesn't matter. He's still a good, solid goal scorer to have. And as well as that, too, I said this as well, you move Kubalik down to the bottom six, that's some good secondary scoring there. And I think it solves two problems at once, because you were talking about how you're concerned with the depth. We'll have Kubalik on the third line. That helps out a lot more, so for sure. So I like it a lot. I think it's a great move.
I think it's a no-risk move. If it doesn't work out, you can either flip him at the deadline or you can just play it out and he won't come back next year. But if it does work out, it's amazing. And I think this really can push Ottawa a little bit. You get close to that playoff line. I have a few concerns about the signing. First of all, DJ Smith. DJ Smith's system and Vladimir Tarasenko seem like it's going to butt heads. That's the only real concern that I would have. And our other co-host, Luke, mentioned this to me literally a few seconds ago before we hit record. So like the system, like DJ plays a dump and chase system, physicality system. Vladimir Tarasenko can be a little gritty, but he's not the player he used to be, especially with the shoulder injury. And Vladimir does not drive the play. So what you're going to get is you're going to have to get him on a line with someone who can drive the play. I think you put him first line, you play him with Brady and Stützle. Those are two guys who can drive the play. So that way you can just feed over Tarasenko and back of the net. That she goes. But, I really like it. And he had his introductory press conference today. And
did he look happier than
he looked he looked so much happier than DeBrincat ever did at his industry press conference. And he's already getting annoyed at the media, and I love it. I love that. Calling out the stupid media for asking a stupid question 3 times in a row. Plus there was a funny quote. He's like, "Oh, do you know anybody on the team that from your past, or have you?" He's like, "Yeah, I know Zub. We play computer games together."
Hey, I
thought that was pretty fun.
I mean, that's something. Chemistry.
It's something, yeah.
It's like it's kind of funny. Yeah. It's kind of like us too. Like the long-time gaming friends that played online with each other finally unite. It's kind of like us.
So,
I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm super excited for Tarasenko. Hopefully he does well. And hopefully, I know DJ Smith said he was going to adjust the system, but I'm not going to believe anything until I see it on the ice.
Right. I agree.
But yeah, I think we were good on that. But I just want to go over Ottawa's top 9 real quick. So you're looking at, you're probably going to get the lines of, like you said, you're concerned about the bottom 6. I was concerned about the bottom 6. Your first line, you're going to have Tkachuk, Stu, Senko. Second line, you're probably going to go with, Bafferson, Norris, Giroux. Third line, you're looking at Kubalik, Pinto, Greg, which I think that's a solid third line. And then fourth line, doesn't really matter. It's the fourth line, so I'm not too concerned there. Yeah, I think Ottawa's a solid top 9, and I think that's very good for us. But moving on,
Yeah,
um,
for sure.
we we collabed on a graphic earlier this week. Few of them.
Yes, we did.
We had overrated underrated graphics, and I think we should just go over
Did
those
pretty well.
first because we're just gonna get into a new segment called "Explain Yourself." Because we received, I know some of us received a lot of backlash for these graphics.
Oh yeah.
Gonna get
Me especially for some of the takes that I had, and I kind of made a mistake on a few of mine. I didn't mean to say some certain players, Devin Levi, or Devin Levi, not Devin Levi. I made the mistake of saying he was overrated. He's not overrated. He's overhyped. But I'll let LeBlock keep going.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I kind of rushed this list. I'm not gonna lie because we had to get comments after like, damn, we should have put him in. Like all of us forgot Noah Cates, which
Yeah,
Noah
I can't
Cates
believe
is
I
definitely
forgot Noah
underrated.
Cates.
Like some
Chandler
players we
Stevenson's
didn't.
another one. So
Stevenson, yeah, I saw Casey Middlestad's another guy who probably should have been on this list as well. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go over. We're gonna start with first the good, and then we'll go to the overrated after. So underrated, I put Adrian Kempe. The dude scored 40 goals, and no one seems to care. No one seems to talk about it. He had a
yeah,
really good playoffs for LA too.
for sure. Do you want me to say what mine was?
Sure.
Let me pull it up real quick. Is this mine? No. I'm not prepared, guys. I'm sorry. LeBlock's prepared. I'm not. Okay, here we go.
I
My first
all
one.
right.
What? Oh,
Go
my
ahead.
fault. Okay, all right. Anyways, my first one for underrated was Owen Tippett. I think Tippett had a really good year, and really underrated year. I actually went to a few Flyers games this past season, and Tippett scored a hat trick and an overtime winner. He's a very dynamic player, always involved in the play, and seems to be a lot better in Philly than he was in Florida. It seems Tortorella's system's done really good for him. And honestly, kind of going a little bit off topic, it's Tortorella's system, even though I hated him coming to Philly at first, it's done a lot of good for a lot of guys. Like you said, Noah Cates had a really good year. Morgan Frost had a really good year as well. So the young guys did pretty well this past season, and it makes us hopeful more for the future. And I thank Tortorella for that, to be honest. So yeah,
It's funny because coming in, Tortorella was known for not working well with young guys,
yeah,
but
that's
the
what I
young
was
guys in
thinking.
Philly seem to have. Yeah, so they seem to have flourished under Tortorella, which is pretty cool. Owen Tippett's also on my list. Remember when I went to the Ottawa Philly game? I was in Ottawa, and Noah Tippett, Owen Tippett, excuse me, looked fantastic. This is like he was definitely the best player on the ice that night for the Flyers. When we went to see him play, like again, more dynamic in Philly than he was ever in Florida.
Absolutely.
And yeah, next on my list, I put Jake Wallman. Jake Wallman is probably the best defensive defenseman in the NHL according to analytics, according to play. I've always liked his game. I like how he plays, and he's doing well with that pairing of him and Seider. I think that's going to be a really, really, really good pairing for years to come.
Yeah, criminally underrated guy. And honestly, if I'm remaking this graphic, my next guy I actually kind of regret putting on here. It's Clayton Keller. I think Keller was underrated, but now that
Out of
I've
time.
seen people's opinions and stuff like that, I think he's now properly rated.
Yeah,
He's definitely now up there as a really solid player. A player I would replace him in is probably Barrett Hayton if I was going to go for another guy in Arizona. So yeah, I
well,
think LeBlanc
Barrett
actually
Hayden's
had
on
Barrett
my
Hayton.
list.
Yeah, so
I
that's
do have Barrett Hayden. Dude had a wicked second half. Like, dude was like almost point per game in the second half of the season. Like, that's crazy to me.
yeah, it makes me very hopeful for the future. So
Yeah. And then my last player, because I already mentioned all of them. My last player on my list is actually Capo Caco. I feel like everyone still feels he's the rookie that wasn't good, and like he was still like putting up like 20 points a year. The dude is also a defensive. He's really good defensively.
yeah, he's solid
He's
defensively. That's what people don't realize.
Yeah, like he put up 40 points, and that was his career high. I think next year he can have a breakout. I love his defense. I like his game. There's still more to unpack there with Kako. He's still very young, of
Yeah, for
course.
sure.
So he's definitely got room to improve, and that's why I feel he's underrated.
Not bad. I actually have a few because I pretty much said all the ones in your list. Devon Tays, I think, is very underrated. Kind of holds up the defensive end for Cale Makar. You have Tomas Hertl then as well. Another underrated guy who has played well in San Jose the past couple of years, and nobody really acknowledges that. And then, yes, Barry Kotkaniemi took a pretty big step this past year for Carolina, and nobody really
Yeah.
noticed that. And yeah, Kotkaniemi actually looking like a pretty good contract. And now that he's been properly developed by Carolina, he's a pretty solid player. Maybe not a number 3 pick, but still a solid player.
Yeah. I think Kakiyemi was definitely a guy who, like, you had him on the list. I didn't have him, but yeah, he's definitely taken a step forward since the trade. Since the was it? It's not it's an offer sheet, right?
It was an offer sheet.
Yeah. So I feel like he's done great. Overrated. I'm gonna have you go first in this one because I think we both have a player in common. I think we're just gonna say it immediately.
Victor Hedman, correct?
We both have Victor Hedman. Yeah, we both have Hedman on our list.
Yeah, I mean Hedman, like honestly, he is decently overrated. I mean, like the past 2 years have been rough for him. I'm not going to deny that he was hurt the 1 year, and then this past year he was awful analytically. I just think he is overrated overall. There was actually a take that I had for a while. I thought Chychrun was actually better than him, being the biased Coyotes fan I am. But yeah, I thought, I just don't think he's that as hyped as people think he is. I mean, he's not the best defensively. I mean, he's okay, but he's not like the best either. And I think just like because he's on Tampa, that's why his stats are kind of so bloated. I guess I don't really know how to explain it.
Yeah, I feel like he like the year he was nominated for the Norris. I think it was McAvoy who got snubbed for the Norris that year, and I feel like Hedman didn't even deserve to be a nominee. Like Hedman
Who was that?
not.
2021.
Yeah, 2021, where Hedman got nominated for the Norris, even though he like analytically he had a bad year.
I thought Chychrun should have been nominated. I really thought he should have.
Yeah, that 1 year where he went off that 1 year.
That was a fun year to watch. Like
Yeah.
that was a fun year to watch him, and then he didn't get nominated, and I was pretty pissed off. So
he got a few
whatever.
first place votes though, so I mean at least that's some recognition.
True.
But going back on my list, I put in Tage Thompson. Now before you break out the pitchforks and torches, Tage Thompson is a great player. I actually like Tage Thompson. I really do. But people are acting like Tage Thompson is this top 10 player. They're acting like he's a generational talent. Tage Thompson is a great physical power forward. But you can stop Tage. You can get around him. He's not like an Ovechkin, like a McDavid, like a Draisaitl. Like pump the brakes. He can potentially score 50, but we got to pump the brakes on Tage.
Yeah, he's not there yet. He may be there in the future, but not yet. So he doesn't have the value to Buffalo like McDavid, McKinnon, etc. has to their teams. I mean, Thompson's still very valuable, but like if we're talking like playoffs and stuff like that, like those players carry those teams to the playoffs sometimes. So, and Thompson really hasn't done that yet.
Well, maybe this year Buffalo gets over the hump, and they will see Tage in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. My other overrated player I have is Ville Husso. I think Husso is very overrated. Detroit fans are saying he's their goalie of the future, and he's going to be that next goalie for them. He's not. I mean, like he may be, but like after this past year, like it doesn't really make my hopes up to be that. And they're saying he's a top 10 goalie. That's not true at all. I can name 15 goalies that are better than Ville Husso, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, I mean, if I'm being honest, I mean, goalies are a weird thing to predict, if I'm being honest. And I'll say that about my next player too in a second here. But Ville Husso still being overrated by Red Wings fans and generally NHL.
I feel Husso is overrated. I actually did almost put him on my list. Red Wings fans, like, yeah, he had a really bad second half. He has a few solid games. Like, he had a few shutouts this year for the Red Wings. But, like, his stats, I think he ended the year with, like, an 8.95 or an 8.92, something like that. I don't have the stats in front of me, but I know, and they're like, oh, he's still like a top 15 goalie. I don't see that. I just don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Next player on my list, I put in Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Listen, you don't go from a 50-point player up to an 105-point player like that, and like it's all on power play. Like if he didn't play on power play, he still would have had 50 points.
He would have had like 50, 60 points. It wouldn't have been 100 points.
He had a really good year, a really, really good year. But I think if you put a guy like, I don't know, if you put, let's say, Shane Pinto on Edmonton's top 6, I think he could crack 90. That might be a little harsh, but it's Edmonton. They score a lot of goals and they're really good in the power play. Like they have like a 35% power play at the end of the year, which is insane. Nuge had a really good year, but he is nowhere near like a top 50 player in the NHL.
Agreed, 100%. I don't know why people think he is just because of the points. Like it's ridiculous. My next guy. What?
I remember reading a few comments and people saying, "Oh, he's underrated." I'm like, I don't know.
Like, brother, what? All right, my next guy is Devon Levi, and I made a mistake with Levi. He's not overrated. He's overhyped. Buffalo fans and NHL fans are saying he's going to be the next Vasilevsky, the next Ullmark, the next Sorokin, and they're saying that, oh, he's going to lead them to the promised land. He's going to be the starter, lead us to the playoffs. 7 games. 7 goddamn games. I don't care if he won 5 of them and the Rangers were 2 of those teams. 7 games. It is almost the smallest sample size you can get. And goalies are very weird to predict. I'm not denying that. He could play 40 games next year and win 30. He could also play 40 games next year and lose 30. We have no idea. So, and as well as that too, I don't think you really want to rush him into the starting role. I think if you're Buffalo if you're Buffalo, what I think you should do is either have him run a tandem with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen or Eric Comrie. One of those 2 players. Or even just give him a year in the AHL. Give him a year with the Rochester Americans. That's not even a bad idea. Like, don't rush him in just because you want to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I like you say, goalies, you need to develop your goalie. You don't want to rush your star goalie prospect. You don't want to ruin him. And like, I'm gonna point to Carter Hart as an example where
I agree with you.
Hextall got fired over this. Hextall got fired because Hextall wanted not to rush Carter Hart. So like, you know what? We'll get someone who will. Let's bring in, your favorite guy, Chuck Fletcher.
Ugh.
And and they played him, and like Carter Hart had a good year, and then he didn't play well anymore. And he's gotten better. He has, but Carter Hart could have been a better goalie if he had more development in his earlier years.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're Buffalo, you put him in the A. You don't rush this. I do agree with you that he's not overrated. He is overhyped because you don't want to put all your eggs in the Devon Levi basket just yet.
Not denying. He's going to be a great goalie. I love Devon Levi.
He's going to be amazing.
One of my favorite goalie prospects out there, and I hope he does well with Buffalo. And I said in my videos and my posts, I hope I'm wrong. But honestly, just right now, like, you're overhyping him to be something huge off of 5 games or 7 games. Yeah. Like,
7, it's just very small sample size.
Yeah, so.
Then the last player on my list. Ooh, buddy. It is the newest Red Wings forward, Alex DeBrincat. DeBrincat, now, you can call me salty. You can call me upset. Stop calling him DeBrink Goat. He's not the GOAT. For what he brings, I know Ottawa, his system, it clashed, but he's being overrated mostly by Wings fans, saying, he's going to score 40. I don't know. Like, is he going to play with Patrick Kane?
Yeah, like.
I just feel like he is very overrated for what he provides. I also did this, I put this on because, we have our two co-hosts, Zach and Luke, are Red Wings fans, so, hi!
Yeah.
But I
You're
feel
really,
like to bring it
you're really
just a
doing this
tad
when
bit
they're not
overrated.
here. You're really doing this when they're not here, so they can't they
They,
can't
they,
argue.
they, they, yeah, no, they can't fight me for it. But yeah, I think he's a little bit overrated. I think he'll have a better year in Detroit than he did in Ottawa. I'll say that. But for me, he's a little bit overrated until I want to see how he does with Detroit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like I said, he's a perimeter guy. He doesn't back check. He's defensive liability. But we'll see how it is with Detroit, though.
Yep. You also have one more player after that, by the way. That wasn't your last player. I thought I was getting things.
Oh, you're
mixed
right.
up.
Oh, you're right. I'm bad at math.
My next guy is Alex Ovechkin, and look, here's the controversy with Ovechkin. He's not as overrated as a lot of guys on these lists, but he's no more than a top 50 player right now. All time, he's probably top 10, but he's no more than a top 50 player right now. Anybody who says that is crazy, because the only thing that he's good for anymore is goal scoring. He is a defensive liability. And I'm not saying that, every player on my list and such is going to be amazing offensively and amazing defensively. But if you're Ovechkin, literally all he does, and I'm sorry, but this is pretty much the truth. Almost all he does is stay in one spot of the ice the entire game and look for one-tees. I'm sorry. That's pretty much all he does. There are some other capabilities to his game. I'm not denying that. But honestly, I look at other players in the NHL. They're faster, and they're better than Ovechkin right now. So I'm not saying he's overrated. Like, career-wise, he's definitely a top 10 player in his career. But just right now, Capitals fans may be overrating him to be something that he's not, if that makes any sense. And Crosby's still better.
I got into an argument with a guy on Twitter who said Ovechkin's still a top 10 player. I'm like, he's not top 30. And then he, quote, name me the 30 player. I'm like, okay, bet. I feel like he's still a top 40 player. Ovechkin will still put up 40 goals. 34. Maybe next year he takes a step back, but if he still puts up 40 goals, he's still a top 40 player. Like you said, he just looks for one tees, but he's all-time top 10 player. But right now in this NHL, he's probably a top 40 player. Well, top 50.
Yeah. You're up.
My final player, for real this time, I have Sergei Bobrovsky. Bob had a great run. He had a really great run to the finals. But you look in season last year, he didn't play like that. And in season, since going to Florida, has he ever played like that? No. I don't see him coming out the gate with Florida like this. He won't. He's overhyped because of the run to the playoffs. Absolutely. And I get it. He had a really good run, but he's not putting up those numbers in season. Especially, he's going to be 35 this year. I don't see it.
For sure. Yep, I agree. My final players are Artemi Panarin. I think Panarin might be a little bit overrated by Rangers fans, saying he's a top 20 player. I think he's mid-20s, but not top 20. And as well as that, too, the playoffs didn't look very good for him. He doesn't show up when it matters most. I hope that changes, but just right now, he's not as well rated as Rangers fans think he is, and he's definitely dropping on people's lists because of that. So, yep.
It's bad when your own fan base says you overrated.
Yeah, that's yeah. It's definitely not good. But I'm also wearing Rangers right now, which is kind of ironic. But regardless, it's just another episode of me wearing random teams. Got a Detroit necklace, Coyotes hat. Rangers t-shirt. I'm just been wearing all the teams. I'll wear Chicago tomorrow, Seattle. Who knows at this point? But yeah, regardless, enough about me.
Yeah, I think we are going to end it off this one with one more. Explain yourself. This time we had another bracket together. We did 3 overrated teams, 3 underrated teams. This was also made before the TaraSENko news. And we did this with your other 2 podcast partners, Carter and Jack. Shout out Carter and Jack. And shout out the Nordcast. But yeah, we have 3 underrated teams, 3 overrated teams. I want Evan. We'll have Evan go first.
You want me to start with underrated?
We have two. We have 2 teams in common in this entire thing. So
No, we have. Yeah, you're right. Well, let's just get the one common team out of the way. I put Ottawa underrated because of the Tarasenko thing. Now, probably not an underrated. Maybe still an underrated. Maybe LeBlock disagrees with me, but probably putting another team over them. Honestly, I might put Anaheim underrated over Ottawa. But still, Ottawa, I think, underrated in that division for sure. Still a great team, but LeBlock, do you still have them underrated after the Tarasenko deal?
I don't. I think I might switch him out now, but I had him underrated because everybody before the Senko signing was saying, "Oh, 7th in the Atlantic, it's a lock. It's a lock. They're 7th in the Atlantic." But now you still see some of those, but they're people clear. Like they've getting respect now, so I think I would take them out of underrated. I would probably put a team, probably Minnesota, honestly.
Yeah,
Minnesota's getting hated on.
for sure.
Yeah. My underrated, I put Tampa. Tampa lost some depth, yeah, but they also brought in some decent replacements for those guys. And I feel like they're getting disrespected because of their playoff loss to Toronto. Yes, they lost it was 6 games, right?
They did.
Yeah. It was 6 games. And I feel like, Tampa's going to fall off this year. Oh, it's Tampa's down there. Tampa's still going to be, 1 or 2 in the Atlantic. Until you get, Kucherov, Stamkos, Point, Vasilevsky, Hedman, Sergachev. This is a good team still. People are really underrating this team.
For sure. I agree. I think they still have a good, solid roster. It's just, I understand why some, people are like, oh, they're aging and such. I think they'll still be a good team, regardless. Yeah. I have Dallas, another underrated column there. They're still easily forgotten about, I feel like, as a team that can still contend for a Stanley Cup. I think, honestly, they could win a Stanley Cup in the next, 4 years. I think it's very possible. They have a really young team. They still have some guys coming up there, like Stankoven and Maverick Bourque are going to both battle for roster spots. Yeah, I like Dallas a lot. I don't think people are rating them as high as they should be, to be honest.
I don't think Dallas is underrated. I feel like they're properly rated. But I agree with you. Dallas is a cup contender for sure. But I don't feel they're underrated. But that's just me. That's my opinion.
Good thing my opinion is the only one that matters.
All right.
I'm kidding. Don't kick me off.
My last underrated team, I put Vancouver. Now, I do this thing every year where where season starts, Vancouver starts, then I write them off until we get the season. Then I'm like, oh, I'm high on Vancouver again. But I really like what they did on the back end. Their defense is shored up. I really like their defense now. And if Demko stays healthy, that's in the weak Western Conference, that's a playoff team. That could be a playoff team. But people are like, oh, it's Vancouver. They're not going to do anything. It's Vancouver.
I'm on that ride, too.
But with Rick Tocchet, when Rick Tocchet came in, they started to play really, really, really well.
I mean, so did they did too when they had Bruce Boudreau. So
that's true. Maybe it was a flash in the pan. Maybe it was a flash in the pan. But I think Vancouver's a little underrated.
I have Seattle as my other underrated team there. With Seattle, I like them a lot still. I mean, look, I feel like they are a ways away from getting to that Stanley Cup team and Stanley Cup spot, but they're getting younger, they're getting better. Still a bunch of misfits, and I think with the guy they selected in this past year's draft, Edward Sale, I think adding him to that pool definitely looks good for them. And yeah, I like Seattle a lot. I think they can be a really good playoff team for the next few years. Maybe get to that cup contending spot in the future, but I think they're underrated.
I think they're underrated as well. I will agree with you on that one.
Good.
For overrated, we both have a team in common, but I'm going to actually take this time to switch them out. I think I wouldn't put them in here anymore. I have a new team I would put there. We both had Detroit because at the time it was bad. Detroit was getting really overhyped. They really overhauled their roster and brought in new guys everywhere, on the back, on goaltending, on the defense, in the forward core. And people were saying, oh, this team's going to be a wild card team, be third in the Atlantic. I don't see it personally, but right now I would switch them out and I would put Buffalo in there instead.
I don't disagree with you. I could swap them out there for them too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I actually almost did. I was between those two teams when we made this graphic, and I think if I had to redo it right now, I put Buffalo in that spot. Buffalo has a good team. They have a great top six. They have I wouldn't say a weak bottom six, but it's not ideal. They have two elite defensemen, and their other defensemen are, and they have no goalie. Devin Levi is a prospect as of right now. Eric Comrie is Eric Comrie.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Buffalo is an overrated team. I kind of mixed up on mine. I feel like I'm going to be honest with you. I don't really, and I feel like I feel like I messed up. I don't know why I put LA and Vegas in my overrated. I'm going to just swap those out, honestly, for Florida and Buffalo, if that's okay. Like, I don't know why I put LA and Vegas for some weird reason. Because now that I actually think about it, like, they're not underrated. They're not overrated. Why am I saying that? But I'll go with Buffalo overrated. We definitely just talked about that. Detroit, I agree, is very overrated. Florida, that puts us in a team that we have in common. Florida's missing the playoffs. Yep. Florida's not only going to miss the playoffs, they'll be 7th in the Atlantic. I think that their run was sugar-coated and overrated, and they're going to be Montreal next year. Not like as bad as Montreal, but they're going to be what Montreal was the year after they went to the finals. I feel like their run was they just got hot at the right time. I feel like that's what it was with Florida.
Yeah, and that's the thing about the playoffs. Any team get hot at the right time and go to the finals. Like Florida last year before they made playoffs, they had to have Alex Lyon come in and save their season. If Alex Lyon isn't there, Florida misses playoffs, and we're talking about another story.
Not only about that too, if had Pittsburgh beaten Chicago in that one game, they wouldn't have made it. So,
yeah, but I think Florida is mad overrated. Like, I was like, oh, I hate when I go on, like, I'll go live or I'll go on Twitter. Oh, Florida is going to be number 2 in the league. Stop! No, they're not.
Yes.
Like, I mean, that would you call that recency bias? I think I would.
For sure.
Yeah, but I feel Florida is not making playoffs either. I feel like they'll be 6th or 7th in the Atlantic.
I agree. What then? You have another team because I said both my teams.
I have the Rangers. Rangers forward core is
old.
Oof. If they don't have Shesterkin, I don't think this team's probably a wild card team. I'll be honest.
Probably.
I do like the Rangers.
An average goalie in there.
Yeah, I do like the Rangers. Some of their additions kind of surprise me, like the Wheeler and Quick signings kind of make no sense to me.
The Quick one is weird. The Wheeler one, I guess, kind of makes sense. You add veteran presence on that blue line, or on the blue line, on the bottom six. Top. But the Quick one is weird because he's 20. He's like 38.
He was bad last year too. He was really bad.
Yeah, and then additionally, who's that one goalie? Let me go look. I made a prospect pool overview on them a few weeks ago, and there's this one goalie who
Dylan Grand.
Yeah, Garand, because he played some games up with the Rangers this past year, had an amazing postseason with the Hartford Wolfpack. I figured that his expectation would be that he would be the backup. Now I'm kind of thinking maybe they'll give him another year in the AHL, and that's why they signed Quick. But still, it's weird that you sign a 37-year-old goalie to that. It just didn't make sense to me. It was weird.
Yeah. I feel the Rangers forward core is overrated. I feel like their D core is all right. Shesterkin is a top 3 goalie in the NHL, no doubt. I feel like their team's a little overrated, and I feel like they could potentially take a step back.
I feel like they could too, to be honest. Given if people get injured at the wrong time. I actually thought that, like, this past year was their best run at a cup because they had Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko, and such. I even had them going to the finals.
but
I
then
think
they
I was the
lost
only
to a
person.
hot and young Devils team.
I think I was the only person in our. I mean, we did our group chat playoff pool. I was the only person who had the Devils winning in 7. I think.
I think I had the Rangers in 7. I thought it would be a fun and competitive series, but I still had the Rangers winning it. I wasn't really surprised though when the Devils won it because the Rangers played like shit after game 2.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, but definitely. To watch of it. The East is going to be tough this year, though. The East is going to be really tough, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
going to be fun to watch. And
Atlantic will be a
we already
bloodbath.
Atlantic's a bloodbath. The Metro is going to be interesting. But yeah,
I think every team's competitive besides like Philly, and even Philly like
uh,
this past year was competitive.
yeah, I feel
I'm not
these
saying
are
they'll be
teams
good, but
like Montreal is going to be competitive, but they're still going to be last in the division.
yeah, like they'll actually have a decent record, I think, but they'll still be last.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, we are 1 month away from training camp. Little over a month away from training camp. So it's gonna be interesting. We're really excited for the season to start, and yeah,
Yes, sir.
we'll
I'm
be
very
coming
excited.
coming out with previews soon. And yeah, I think we're gonna just end it off right here. Thank you for watching the episode of the Leblock Cast. Remember to check out our Instagram. We are on YouTube. We're posting graphics almost every day now on the Leblock page. So go check us out, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Yeah, and with that
Yes,
we
sir.
will end it off right there. Thank you for watching and have an excellent day.
Adios.